Hello and welcome back to Football Manager 24 and to the Port Vale save. This is part 2, and remembering back to yesterday, we did the form for the 4 goalkeepers, and in this episode we're going to do the left defenders, central defenders and right defenders. So let's get started. So the first one we're going to be looking at is a central defender. This is Nathan Smith, 27 years of age. And like I told you before, anyone 21 and over will go into the seniors. Right, now nationality English. We'll come down to the age next, which is 27. So that leaves no potential. If you can remember back to yesterday's episode, if you go into the colour chart, on the left hand side here, it will tell you the points for potential. And anybody that's 25 and over will have nothing. And looking up here, you don't have to go here. You can go contract if you want to do it a different way. So he has a contract till the end of the 25 season, and his wages is 1,700 per week. Now his natural position is DC, but he does play competent, if we just hover over that, competent as a DR. So you can see this is the natural position. This is the points that you really want a player to have, because DR, he's not natural in that position. So his points will be less. So when I've added up, I'll be able to show you. So let's go into the technicals and add them up. That comes to 106. Now don't forget down the bottom here, highlighted in mauve or purple, a player to be at this standard would need to be on 383, just to give you an idea where we're at. And the mentors, they look quite good. Yep, 162. And his physicals is 91. So his totals, when we add them up, are 359. Just about good enough for League 2 here, and there isn't any potential. Now we go down to the final 2 columns. This is to work out the estimated value of the player and the wages that I think he should be on at Port Vale. So we go into the player value tab, and we're going to use the natural. Even if the player doesn't have any natural ability, we will still use this figure and the age figure. So 359 to 27. So what you do here, there's 2 columns. We used the goalkeepers in the last episode, but we're using now the right hand column until we find 359, was it? Yep, and 27 years of age. So we find the 359. This first column for the player worth, if you like, starts at 15. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So that tells us he's worth around £400,000. So as I enter that, you can see on the right hand side here, this is the estimated player wages that I've got. It's 1334. Yes, all right, it's on 1700. It's not too much over, but it is over. Now going back to the players' positions here, the DC we already know is natural, so that's his highest points he can achieve. But if you struggled for a DR, yes, he would be able to play there, but his points would be lower because he's not natural as a DR. So his points would drop to 323, which tells us that most probably would be good enough for about a National League North or South. So again, for League One, this isn't going to be a good position. And his 359 points as natural tells us that he would be good enough to perhaps avoid relegation from League Two. Now moving on to our next player. He's also natural in DC. He's 25 years old, so he will go into the seniors in the central defender position. And this is Alex Iakoviti, maybe. Anybody want to pull me up on that? Right, he's Scottish, 25 years of age. So again, when you hit 25, there's no possible potential. He also has a contract that's going to be running out in 25, and his wages is $2,200 per week. As you can see, he's natural in that position, but is competent as a DL. So again, this is if you get stuck for players in those positions. Remember to highlight that down here so you know he does play in that position as well. And that's that. So the next thing we've got to do is add the attributes. So starting with the technicals. Which is 105. I think these left-hand columns need to be higher than that. We'll see as we go along. $133. And 88. So you can see that his form is worse than Nathan Smith by quite a considerable amount. So we're going to go back down to the player values. We're going to take the natural ability of 326 and the age of 25. So moving across there, 326, which is there, and 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, tells us it's worth 115,219. And as I enter, you can see that his wages should be £384. They're 2,200. So we will pink that. So we're aware of these players that are getting paid too much money for the club. Into our third player. And again, 23 years old tells us he will be a senior player. The natural ability tells us he will be a DC. And his name is Jess Debra. he's English, so we'll put that in. Then we'll go to his age of 23. We know he's 2 years away from being 25. At 9 points per year for potential. So he will have a possible increase of 18 points. It doesn't say they're going to get there, but it's an increase of 18 points. Now, into the contract. He's also got a contract till the end of 2025. And he's on £1,600 per week. So into the technicals again. Which comes to 112. And that comes to 148. I do this mentally in my head, by the way. And the physical's quite high there on 98. So going back to the player position, he only plays DC and it is natural. So you won't be able to put him anywhere else on the field unless you retrain him. But I think maybe at 23 it's too late. Now the estimated value for this player, 358 points at 23 years of age. Now I've got that at 655,176. So 655,176 tells me he should be on around £2,184 per week, and he's on 1,600. So yeah, that's good for us. He's within the top wage structure, if you like. So he's a player that we will possibly keep. And again, in the potential figures here, nobody is over 383. But this is why Port Vale, where they are in the league in real life, and that's why the board have told us to avoid relegation if we possibly can. So we will need to strengthen the side, that's for definite. Now, this one's a little bit different that we're going to do here. He is a loan player in from Crystal Palace. And again, his proper position naturally is at ADC, and he can play DR. He's 22, and that means he will come up here as a senior player, and this is Kofi Balmer. And he's from Northern Ireland. He's 22 years of age, which means 3 years at 9 points would be 27 possible potential. Now, the contract that we've got is till the 31st of May 2024, and we are paying him £1,500 per week. And his attributes, we'll start with the technicals. Which is 123, which is best of all 4 there so far. and his mentals are 164. And his physicals are 91. So we'll see 378. Forgot to put those two in. Right, so that's done. And as you can see here, he does have some ability on potential that possibly could get him into the bottom of the championship, but no better. So certainly going to be good enough for us, and we can see with the points that he is going to be the top one here. So 378 and 22 we need to take into the player value. So there's 378, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So 9, 7, 7, 2, 1, 6. Right, so I've got this player worth nearly £2 million here, and his wages should be just over £6,500 per week. And when we look at this player, we can see his worth between 4.1 and 5.4. I'm going to be honest with you, if I was offering anything for a player like this to come and play at Port Vale, the maximum that you would want to offer is around 2 million. But of course, being Port Vale, I'm sure when we go back and have a look at the finances here, that we've got 50,000 to spend. So it will be up to us to sell players to move on. And if we quickly go into scouting, we can see all that we've got here is £3,000 per week for wages. But that's for another day at the moment. Now the other thing that you've got to do in here is put in loan. I always just put the first three letters. And if I was to go into the colour chart, right, that's going to tell me it's going to be that blue there. There. So as we play the game, just that blue there will identify that that player is on loan. You can do what you want with that to remind yourself. Now we're going to work the next player out. Now if he happens to be another senior player, we can only have 4 senior players in this position at a club. Anybody else, if they fit in there, all well and good, but if they don't, if they're under 326, we will get ready to sell them on unless they play natural in another position somewhere else. But we'll do that as we go along. We've still got a couple more here to do anyway, but these in youth. Right, so another DC, only plays that in a natural position. Braden Webb. English, 17 years of age, which means he has potential of 8 years at 9 points, which is 72. And his contract is until the end of this coming season, 2024, and his wages is £220 per week. Only plays DC natural, as I just mentioned. Put that in green. And there we go, that's that done. So we've got to now fill in his attributes, which are obviously going to be a lot less than top players. And that first column is 55, that you can see by looking, they're not very good. 82 for the mentals. And 54 for the physical. So this player is very poor, even with the possible potential. 263, we need to be 383. And at 17 years of age, if you have plenty of players in that position, you can either try and sell him. You can't always sell 17-year-olds, but you can occasionally. But otherwise, he will be going out on loan, I would think, and not coming back after the contract. So, 191 natural points against 17 years of age. So let's go into player value. So we want 191, which is there, 15, 16, 17. Tells me he is worth £103. So next to nothing, and the wages should be zero. So again, that £220 highlighted in a colour to tell you that he is not going to be needed at the club. And our next player is 16 years of age, only plays DC natural, and his name is Lewis Francis. And because of their ages here, 15, 16 and 17 will automatically go in the under 18s. Even if they're a top player for now, because we haven't finished, we still leave them where they are. This guy is English, 16 years of age, that's 9 years till he reaches 25, and 9 nines at 81. So that's a possibility on the potential there. And his contract expires 24, and again he's on £220 per week. He only plays DC natural. So it'll be the natural points we'll be looking for here. And we'll add the technicals. And that comes to 59, slightly better than the last player. And the mentals are 88. And the physicals 69. So his natural points or rating is 216 against his age of 16. So again, we're going to the player value. 216 and 16 years of age, that is worth £796. And his wage should be about £3 per week. So again, this is another player that's never going to make the club. As you can see, his 297 there is including his potential, and it will never be good enough for Paul Vale. Now, the only thing is with 16-year-olds, yes, we can drop them into the youth team, but we can't loan them out until they're 17. So with his contract running out at the end of 2024, this will be another guy that we will let go at the end. The next player we're going to look at is a dual player this time. He plays DL and DC. Now, whenever you've got a player that plays either DL or DR and DC as well, on natural, always put him on the left, or if he plays natural on the right. Don't put them in the centre because we'll always have enough players for that. So we go to DL, and you'll see that as you go further on in the game that we always struggle for DL, DR, ML, MR positions. As I'm in the middle of doing this, so I'll just finish that bit. Right, that's natural player for DL and DC, but as I said, we'll put him in DL. And his name is Callum Bestford. And he's English. 17 years of age. 8 years till he's 25 times 9 will be 72 top potential points for improvement. His contract runs out or expires at the end of 24, and he's another one on £220. One thing I've done wrong, if anybody's noticed that, he's only 17 years of age, and I should have put him up in the seniors. Right, so let's work out his attributes, starting with the technicals. And the technicals are 64. His mentals are 83. And his physicals are 48. So yet again, we go down to the player value, 195, and the age of 17. Right, and we've got him valued at £141 and his wages at 0. So this will be another player that, as he is 17, we can loan out. But by the end of the season, he will be gone as well. His maximum would be 267 points. And as I say, to play in this team, you need to be on at least 383 points to fulfill potential. And at the moment, the squad is not looking good. But it's early at the moment. Now this time you can see the player again is dual, plays in 2 positions, but as we play 4-4-2, we don't use the wing back right. All we use is the DR. And again, the age is 16 and he gets put into the youth squad. Alessandro Trapasso. And he's English. And as I say, he's only going to play as a DR, and he is natural in that position. So we don't need to write down WDR because down the bottom here we moved all these across that we don't need to use for a 4-4-2. Yes, if you were 4-3-3, maybe you'd use them, but then there'd be certain players that you don't use because of that 4-3-3. Now the age is 16, 9 years till he reaches 25, so 9 9s are 81 in potential. Contract, end of the 24 season expiry, and £220. and the points is 52 technicals, is 76, physicals is 83. So the totals here, natural totals, is 211 against the age of 16. So into the value, 211, and the player is worth £582. Tells us his wages should be about £2 a week. So this is another young player that we won't be keeping on. So he'll be here to the end of the season. We've not got that many more to do. We've got another 8 or so. Now this is very mixed up, but I'll show you how to get to the end of this one. Again, we're not going to need a DM and we're not going to need a WDR. They're not in our team. So the 3 we will be using is MC, DC, but his natural position will be DR, and he is 31 years of age, so he will be a DR player. And a senior player, and that's Jason Lowe. He's English, 31 years of age, tells us there's no potential left in him whatsoever. He's got a contract that expires 2025, and he's on £2,000 a week wages. So now let's get back to the positions. We know he's going to be playing natural DR, so we'll fill that one in first. And he can also play accomplished DC and MC. So these ones we will put into orange. And that's that done. So now we're going to add the attributes. So the technicals come to 109. And 168 for the mentals, which is pretty good. And 99, which is pretty good as well for the physicals. But as you will see, as he gets older, you could lose 1 or 2 of those physicals every year. Right, 376 points natural at 31. So let's find it, 376. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So 391,416. And when I return here, his wages should be around 1,300 and they're 2,000. So again, we'll just put that into pink to tell us that he's being paid too much. But 376 points, and we want around 383, isn't bad. The next player, again he has 4 positions here. We don't need the WBR or the DM, so he plays DR and MC, both accomplished. So this is slightly different in the makeup of the points here. So as we're doing the defenders, and he was 24 years old, we're going to put him in as a DR and an MC. But we're going to put him in DR because that position is the positions that we're doing at the moment. If we need to move him at some point, we know we can. But remember here that it's only accomplished, so the points will be less than it would be if he was natural. So what you would have to do as you get further into the game is most probably train him for that position. I don't think it would take long for him to become a natural on that. Now his name is Thomas Sang. He's English, 24 years of age, tells us that if there's any potential, it's only going to be 9. Now his contract expires 2025 and his wages is 2,500. Go and add the attributes, which look okay actually. And the first column, 152, is very good. And then we've got the mentals at 150. And the physicals at 92, which tells us if he was natural, he would be on 394, which would possibly be a player that could be maybe better than top half or maybe around by the playoffs in this league. So he would be a good player for us in a natural position. Because it's only accomplished, it takes him down to 374, which is good enough for promotion from League 2. So, as I said to you, you need to retrain this guy, but you'll see that as we go on, what we managed to get from him. But when you work out a player's estimated value, it has to be on the natural points, because if someone else bought him, they could play him as a wing-back right. So 394 if he was natural at 24 years of age. So 394, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 6, 7, 6, 9, 2, 1. So I've got this player worth 2.6 million and wages up to nearly 9,000 per week. So I'm just going to find out what this player is actually worth. Look at that, 170,000 to 325,000. Now, if you don't want this player to leave you for that silly money, you can always go on transfer status and you can put him up to around 2.6 million, confirm, and now when you go back into the player, you can see that you've changed his value to 2.6 million if you think you don't want to let him go for that. Because someone could come in for about 200,000 and he would want to go. So get that in first. But the player will come back to you and say, this isn't right. If someone comes in for me, I want to go for less than that. The value's wrong. Just don't take any notice. So that is Thomas Sang. But at the moment, if you had to choose out of these two players who's going to start, you've got 376 Jason Lowe and 374 Thomas Sang. So for Thomas to improve those points, you would need to train him as a DR. Next player we're going to look at, again, the WDR bit we don't need, and he plays two natural positions. And remember what I said, if one of them is on the outside, that's where you're going to put him. But if his points are not good enough in this case, because we've already got two here, if his points don't reach either 376 or under 374, then we will move him across to the DC. And this is where that can change as well. So we're going to put him down here for now. This is Lewis Cass. His nationality is English. We know he plays DRDC for now. And these will both be natural. His age is 23. 2 years at 9 points would be 18 potential. His contract is to the end of the season, and he is on £800 per week. I'm going to just copy and paste that in there because he is a senior player. And the technical points are 106. His mentals are 144, and his physicals are 88. So the points 338, and he is 23 years of age. So 338 against 23. Which is 298,833. And when we return that, we can see his maximum estimated wage 996 is on 800, so that's good for us. He won't fit in as a player, a senior player for the DRs, because you can see the 376 Jason Lowe and Thomas Lang 374. And don't forget, Thomas Lang, if he does get to that DR, his possible potential figure would be 403, which would take him as a bottom of the championship player. So he would be good to keep. Now, Lewis Cass will not fit in, as I said, so he would have to go on the transfer list, loan list, whatever you want to call it. But because he plays naturally as a DC, we'll go and see if 338 points is good enough to play here, which it is. So we'll take Alex Iacoviti out. which means he will now go onto the transfer list because he doesn't play anywhere else that is natural. And we will move Lewis Cass into his position. And again, he's not going to move anywhere because he's still bottom of those four. So we'll remove Lewis Cass from DR. Our next player we're going to look at is Ben Lomax, and yet again, he's only 16, he's got to go into the youth. WDR we don't need, and again he plays DCDR, so we will put him as a DR. And that's his natural ability put in there. So let's start with the name, Ben Lomax. He's English, 16 years of age, which is 9 years to 25 times 9 points is 81. His contract runs out at the end of 2024, and he's on £220 a week. So let's go and add the attributes. Which is the technicals there of 87. And the mentals 97. And the physicals there of 68, which is an improvement on some of our players for those positions in the youth. 252 to 16. So into the value. Second column, don't forget, is for players. 252. It should be worth 8393. So 8,393, and his wages around £28 per week. So yet again is on too much money for the club. His potential, if he did get to that, would be 333, which again may be good enough for the Conference North and South, or the National League North and South. So he's never going to be a Port Vale player. But because he's 16, you can't loan him out, and we'll mostly end up keeping him to the end of his contract. Now, Mitch Clark is 24, so he will be a senior player. We don't play WBL or WBR, so he's only going to go left or right. Now, we know that he is a preferred right footer, so we will start to put him in the right position and then the left. But the right is actually full, and even if he becomes the second best player here, or even the top player, then Thomas Sang will come out of there and have to go into an MC. So somebody good will have to go on the transfer list at some point. He looks quite good. So this is Mitch Clark. Now Mitch Clark is Welsh. be a senior player, so I'll put that in now. And the two positions are natural. His age was 24, just leaves 9 for 1 year on potential, if any at all. And his contract expires 2025. And he is on £1,800 per week. And moving into the technicals. It's 138. And his mentals are 158. And his physicals of 87, puts him on 383. So it does put him to the top here. But when we go back to the DLs, we don't have anybody at all. And we're running out of players. So the best thing to do with him will be to put him as a senior DL. I don't really like putting right footers on the left hand side, but in this case he is natural in that position, and we don't really have a choice just to lack of players. But 383, you can see, is the figure that we need for a player to help us avoid relegation, and he's on exactly that. So his estimated value at 383, age 24, that's 5383. That's 24, so that's 671390. So I've got him worth around 1.6 million, tells me that his wage could be around 5,500 per week, so he's within the bracket there. And at the moment, he's most probably one of our best players. Just a few more to go now. And Dan Jones, also looking to play in that position, and he plays natural DC as well. And because he plays on the outside, whether it have been DL or DR, we make that first refusal before we put him in the centre. And this is, as I say, Dan Jones. He's English. And he is 28 years old, so there will be no potential left at that age. And his contract expires 2025. His wage is £2,000 per week. And the technicals, which don't look too terrible, which is 138. Then the mentals, which is 142, and the physicals, which is 93. So he's not too far behind, only 10 points. 373 to 28. So there's 373, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So I've got him worth 637, 356. Make sure of that sometimes. Make a mistake. Right, and that tells us he should be on around £2,100 per week wages, and he is on 2,000, so another one in the catchment. So not a bad pair to have on the DLs. And now we're going to move on to our next player. You can see again the WDL and the AML we don't need. He does play DL and ML, natural, and is only 16. So he will go down into the youth. But it's good to have players playing dual purpose of a DL or an ML. Jack Shorrock. You might not find some of these players on your game because I've added players to the teams just to make them have more, but they're normally regens, so you may not find all of these. 16 years of age, tells us he's got 9 years at 9 points, maximum of 81. His contract expires 2024, and there's another one that's on £220 per week. So let's add up the technicals. Which is 91. His mentals. That's 125. And his physicals are 76. So it's not bad points for a 16-year-old, 292. So into the value. 292. 88,452. And the wages around £295 a week. So yeah, he's worth keeping. But as we look at the potential, the maximum that he could get up to would be 373, which again would be for a League 2 player. That's maybe a playoff chance, but again, yeah, he's going to be most probably somebody that will still go at the end of the season. Right, and this is possibly going to be the last one. Let me just look at the one underneath. Yeah, he will. So this will be the last player that we do for today. We don't use WDL, as I've told you numerous times. All he can play other than that is DL, and he is 16 years of age. But we've got both players here that fill in this, so let's see if he's good enough to be one of those two. And his name is Zain Sadiq. He's English, 16 years of age, 81 potential, another one that expires 2024 and wages of £220 per week. And let's see, again, adding up the technicals. Is 76. Which is 107. And the physicals are 73. That takes him to 256 at the age of 16. So the last time into the values, 256 is there, and I've got him worth 11,489, which should be around £38 per week. So it's another one that's being paid too much. And because he's an under 18 here, he is better than Callum Bestford. So we'll bring him out of there, move in Zayn Sadiq. And it means that Callum Bestford will definitely go out on loan. So that's going to be the last player we work out in today's episode. So what we're going to do now is just make sure that we've got these three positions correct. The top two here, 383 and 373. Then as we move down to the two that are in youth, we just put these in order as well because they're both natural. So yeah, that's gonna finish the DLs. This player here will definitely be loan listed. Again, just put them in a colour that you can remember by. And when we've done all the players and all the positions, we will then go through this. So at the moment we know we're going to loan him out. Let's just make sure these three here are within the wage budget. Now, on the wages column, when you work your way down here, you will see that the totals going out of the club is 4,460, and we have 5,051 to spend. So we are within the wage budget there of £591. So we don't have any problems there. Now we're going to look at the DR position. This is pretty much the same as DL there, same amount of players. 376 for Jason Lowe, 374 for Thomas Sang. Don't forget, you don't use these figures here until he trains into that as a natural. So they're in the right order. These two here need swinging round, and three of these players from the four are on too much wages. So that's done as well. And again, we're spending 4,940 on these four players with a wage budget of 5,051. So we're still £111 under budget there. And then we move into the DCs, which is always going to be more. And this is pretty much as it should be as well. We'll just go into the youth players. We've got two here. We'll put them into V column, highest to lowest. Both of these are not very good, I will be honest with you. Then the top 4 in descending order. And the one player here that doesn't fit into there is Alex Iacovitti. So again, he's now going to go on either the transfer list, the loan list, whichever we can try and get this money back of 2,200. The wages at the moment is 8,240, and we do have 10,101 wage budget, which means we still have £1,861 to spend, but this player is not going to be needed at the club at all, so that will definitely help us with another 2,200 per week. So either loan him out or transfer him. And that's basically it. If we've got any players that are going to be potentially good, they need to be over 424, which is the reason I put the championship in. So if we can get a player at 424, he will be good enough, respective of the natural points, he will be good enough for this club. 424 here. The best one we've got there is Kofi Balmer, but don't forget he is on loan from Crystal Palace. And DR, again we've got one, Thomas Sang, 403, but not good enough to be a great player. So that's all the defenders done today in this episode. In the next episode, it will be the ML, MC, MR, and the strikers. So that one will take a little bit longer to do. But thanks for watching again today. Subscribe to the channel if you can. All helps. Leave a comment and a like. And if you want the free spreadsheet here that I'm doing so far, just let me know. The email address will be at the bottom. And I'll send you a free copy of that and a template if you want to do your own one. Otherwise, we'll meet in part 3. Thanks for watching.